Earth had no warning when the Galactic Empire arrived. On a clear morning in June 2089, a massive ship appeared in orbit, its sleek design unlike anything humans had built. Within hours, smaller vessels descended toward the United Nations headquarters in New York. World leaders scrambled to respond. Military forces went on high alert, but their weapons seemed laughably primitive compared to what now hovered above Earth's major cities. The alien who emerged from the lead ship called himself Ambassador Orthal. He stood nearly 7 feet tall with iridescent blue skin and 4 arms. His translator device converted his clicks and whistles into perfect English. "We bring greetings from the Galactic Empire," he announced to the hastily assembled UN Security Council. "Your world has been selected for integration. This is a great honor." Captain John Miller of the UN Space Force was assigned as Earth's primary contact. A veteran of the Mars colonies with a reputation for keeping cool under pressure, he studied the Imperial delegates carefully during their first meeting. "What exactly does integration mean?" John asked, noting how the ambassador's upper arms twitched slightly. Orthal smiled. "Your world will become part of our glorious empire. You will receive protection, access to advanced technologies, and participation in our trade networks. In exchange, we require resource quotas, population management, and acceptance of imperial oversight." Lisa Bennett, a xenolinguistics specialist, sat beside John and noticed something concerning in the translation. "Population management sounds ominous," she whispered. John nodded. "Ambassador, Earth is an independent world. We would consider alliance or trade agreements, but not absorption into your empire." Orthal blinked his 3 eyes in what appeared to be confusion. "This is not a negotiation. Integration is mandatory for all worlds at your development stage. Thousands of planets have joined our empire this way." The Earth delegation exchanged worried glances. "We need time to discuss this with our full governments," John said firmly. "Of course. The integration process allows for a preparation period. You have 90 days to prepare your world for imperial administration." After the meeting, John gathered with key advisors in a secure room. "They're not asking. They're telling," he said. "And they seem genuinely surprised we might object." Lisa reviewed her notes. "Their language doesn't even have proper terms for diplomatic equals. Everyone is either above or below in their hierarchy." Dr. Alan Wright, a historian specializing in colonial studies, spoke up. "This mirrors historical patterns of colonization on Earth. They see us as primitives who should be grateful for their civilization." Over the next week, Earth learned more about the Galactic Empire. It spanned thousands of systems, with Earth sitting on the edge of what they called the expandable frontier. Most worlds had accepted imperial rule without resistance. Those that hadn't weren't mentioned in imperial records. The empire shared limited information about their technology, governance, and history, all presented as an inevitable advancement that Earth should embrace. During a private tour of the imperial vessel, John noticed how the crew reacted to Earth questions. When asked about defense systems, they laughed. When asked about autonomous governance, they seemed confused. They've never been told no, Lisa realized after analyzing hours of conversations. Their empire expands because no one believes they can refuse. World leaders debated furiously. Some argued for acceptance, pointing to the advanced technology Earth could gain. Others insisted on independence at any cost. 2 weeks after first contact, John Miller delivered Earth's official response to Ambassador Orthal. Earth respectfully declines integration into the Galactic Empire. We propose instead a mutual recognition treaty between independent powers. Orthal's skin darkened to deep purple. This response is unprecedented and unacceptable. Nevertheless, John said steadily, it is our answer. The ambassador's voice grew cold. You have misunderstood. Integration is not optional. You have 76 days remaining to prepare. The empire always gets its way. As the imperial delegation departed, John turned to Lisa. I think we just started something big. Yes, she agreed quietly. The question is, can we finish it? The UN Security Council chamber buzzed with tension. 3 days after Earth's refusal, representatives from every nation gathered for an emergency summit. Screens showed the Imperial ships still in orbit, more arriving each day. They're building up forces, said Commander Olivia Garcia, pointing to satellite images. Our best estimates suggest they now have enough ships to control our major cities. President Nathan Wright of the United States stood. Let's be clear about what we're facing. The Empire has technology centuries beyond ours. They can strike anywhere on Earth within minutes. And yet we must resist, said Prime Minister Helen Kumar of India. The terms they offer amount to slavery. Dr. Alan Wright walked to the podium. The historian's normally calm voice trembled slightly as he addressed the assembly. Throughout Earth's history, whenever a technologically superior power encountered a less advanced society, the results were devastating for the latter. The British Empire, colonial powers in Africa, European expansion into the Americas, all followed the same pattern. The Empire sees us as the indigenous people they need to civilize. Murmurs filled the chamber as the implications sank in. Ambassador William Kelly, a veteran diplomat, reported on his latest meeting with the Imperial delegation. They seemed genuinely confused by our refusal. When I explained our desire for self-determination, Ambassador Exorthal asked why we would choose primitive chaos over advanced order. Screens in the chamber flashed an urgent alert. Another Imperial ship had arrived, larger than any before it. Commander Garcia grimaced. That's a military vessel. The others were mainly diplomatic and survey ships. William Kelly continued, the Empire has clarified their terms. Earth will provide yearly quotas of minerals, agricultural products, and water. 20% of our young adults will enter Imperial service. All governments will answer to an Imperial governor. And if we refuse? Asked the Brazilian representative. They call it pacification, Kelly said grimly. Based on their records we've accessed, it involves orbital strikes on military targets, followed by ground forces to establish control. The room fell silent. Russia's President Sokolov broke the silence. What military options do we have? Commander Garcia didn't sugarcoat her answer. Conventional weapons would be like bringing spears to a gunfight. Our best missile technology can't penetrate their shields. However, she paused. They may be overconfident. They expect immediate surrender. Dr. Kevin Washington, head of the newly formed Xenotechnology Division, spoke next. We've been analyzing their communications. Their military protocols are rigid, designed for efficiency against known threats. Earth warfare, ironically, may be too primitive for their systems to predict. You're suggesting guerrilla tactics against a spacefaring empire? Asked the Chinese premier. I'm suggesting we use our perceived weakness as strength, Kevin replied. They expect compliance. Their ships, their weapons, their tactics, all designed for fighting other advanced civilizations. The debate continued for hours. Some nations favored immediate surrender to avoid destruction. Others demanded resistance at any cost. The split seemed unbridgeable until Lisa Bennett requested to speak. The xenolinguist had spent days analyzing Imperial communications. The Empire's language reveals something important. They have no concept of defeat. Their history shows only expansion. No empire has successfully resisted them. How is that helpful? Someone called out. Because, Lisa continued, it means they don't know how to handle opposition. They have no playbook for a world that simply says no. As if to punctuate her point, a message arrived from the Empire. Ambassador Exorthal demanded Earth's surrender within 48 hours or face consequences. President Wright addressed the assembly one final time. We must decide now. Surrender our freedom forever or fight against impossible odds. The vote was taken. The resolution passed with 83% approval. Earth would fight. As the assembly dispersed, William Kelly approached Commander Garcia. I need to deliver our answer to the Empire. Any suggestions? She smiled grimly. Keep it simple. Tell them Earth says no. Earth moved with unexpected unity after its defiance. Former enemies shared military secrets, scientists worked across borders, and civilians prepared for the coming storm. We have 67 days before their deadline. Commander Olivia Garcia told the newly formed Earth Defense Council. Every hour counts. The council met in an underground facility in Switzerland. World leaders had given them full authority to coordinate Earth's resistance. Screens showed activity worldwide. Missile systems being modified, space platforms repurposed, and civilian bunkers prepared. Engineer Susan Powell stepped forward to present her team's findings. She had dark circles under her eyes from working 3 days straight. The Empire's shields operate on frequencies we can track, she explained, pointing to data streams. They're incredibly powerful, but rigid. We believe we can create adaptive shields that change frequency faster than their weapons can adjust. Will they work? Asked the Russian general. Susan smiled tiredly. They'll buy us time, maybe enough to matter. Across the globe, Colonel Eric Martinez trained an international space defense force. Former fighter pilots learned to operate retrofitted spacecraft. Commercial vessels became makeshift warships. Earth's modest space fleet grew from dozens to hundreds of craft. They won't win beauty contests, Eric told his pilots, but they'll surprise the Empire. Sometimes ugly is an advantage. Dr. Kevin Washington led the technology team. His lab had been analyzing Imperial communications intercepted during diplomatic exchanges. Their systems are advanced but standardized, he reported. They value efficiency over security. We've identified potential access points to their networks. Can we hack them? Asked President Wright. Better, Kevin replied. We can confuse them. While leaders planned, civilians prepared. People stockpiled food and built shelters. Children practiced emergency drills. Hospitals expanded capacity. The knowledge of what was coming united humanity like nothing before. Lisa Bennett made a critical discovery 3 weeks into preparations, studying Imperial military records shared during cultural exchanges. She noticed patterns in their tactics. They always follow the same sequence, she explained to the council. First orbital demonstrations, then targeted strikes on military installations, followed by landing troops at government centers. How does that help us? Asked William Kelly. Because they never deviate, Lisa said. Even when those tactics fail, they don't adapt. Their military hasn't faced real resistance in centuries. They'd forgotten how to innovate. The Council used this insight to develop Project Defiance, Earth's coordinated response plan. Military assets were dispersed, command structures decentralized, conventional tactics abandoned. On day 45, Earth received unwelcome news. Imperial spy drones were discovered monitoring military bases. Several were captured intact. Susan Powell's team worked day and night to study the drones. Their technology is remarkable but predictable, she reported. And we've confirmed our suspicion that they've never encountered some of Earth's older technologies. What do you mean? Asked Commander Garcia. Their sensors are designed to detect energy signatures from advanced power sources. They barely register primitive combustion engines or analog systems. This revelation led to a radical shift in strategy. Earth would combine its most advanced technologies with deliberately primitive systems. Digital weapons would be paired with analog backups. Space fighters would carry both energy weapons and physical projectiles. As the deadline approached, tension grew. Imperial ships increased orbital patrols. Ambassador Xorthal sent daily demands for surrender, each more threatening than the last. On day 60, a final council meeting was held. All preparations possible have been made, Commander Garcia reported. Earth is as ready as we can make it. President Wright nodded. And our chances? Dr. Alan Wright, the historian, answered. History shows that determined defenders fighting for their homes can overcome seemingly impossible odds. The American Revolution, Vietnam, Afghanistan, all cases where great powers were defeated by supposedly weaker forces. "We have one advantage they don't expect," Lisa Bennett added quietly. "They believe their way is inevitable. We know nothing is." 7 days before the deadline, Imperial sensors detected unusual activity in Earth's oceans. Before they could investigate, Earth launched its response. The fight for humanity's freedom had begun. The Empire struck at dawn, just as Earth's intelligence had predicted. Massive ships descended through the atmosphere, positioning themselves above major military installations worldwide. Their message was broadcast on all frequencies: surrender or face pacification. Earth's answer came not from official channels, but from Captain Peter Collins, commanding a fleet of 50 modified cargo ships hidden in the Pacific. While Imperial attention focused on known military bases, Peter's vessels rose from the ocean, their engines barely registering on advanced scanners. "Execute Operation Hornet," Peter ordered, his voice steady despite the odds. His ships carried no energy weapons that Imperial shields could easily deflect. Instead, they deployed thousands of small, primitive drones loaded with electromagnetic pulse devices. The Imperial ships detected the approach too late. Their shields, designed to stop energy weapons, allowed the simple mechanical devices to pass through. EMPs detonated against hull surfaces, temporarily disabling communications on 7 Imperial vessels. In orbit, Dr. Nancy Thompson activated the virus her team had planted in Imperial networks during previous diplomatic exchanges. Imperial ships suddenly lost coordination with each other, their standardized systems falling into confusion. "They're attacking from everywhere at once," reported an Imperial commander to Ambassador Torthal. "Our protocols have no response category for this assault pattern." The Empire had expected Earth to use its limited space forces in a direct confrontation, a suicide mission that would justify immediate planetary bombardment. Instead, Earth forces remained dispersed and hidden, striking from unexpected vectors and retreating before the Empire could respond. The Battle of Lunar Orbit marked Earth's first major victory. Imperial supply ships, approaching from the dark side of the moon, encountered what appeared to be abandoned mining equipment. When they moved to destroy these obstacles, the equipment, actually disguised weapon platforms, opened fire with railguns firing simple metal projectiles at incredible speeds. 3 Imperial ships were crippled before they could report the ambush. On Earth, civilian resistance complemented military actions. When Imperial landing craft touched down in Berlin, they found not cowering humans but empty streets rigged with primitive but effective traps. Their sensors, calibrated for energy weapons, failed to detect simple explosive devices and mechanical snares. Imperial Commander Zev Drath couldn't hide his frustration during the emergency council meeting. These humans use chaos as strategy. They combine technologies in ways that make no sense. When we adapt to one approach, they switch to another. Ambassador Torthal's skin had darkened to a deep purple. How can they coordinate such diverse attacks without centralized command? What the Empire didn't understand was that Earth was fighting with distributed leadership. Commander Garcia had established 500 independent command cells worldwide, each authorized to act without direct orders if communication lines fell. 2 weeks into the conflict, Earth suffered its first major loss. Imperial forces identified and destroyed the North American Defense Command Center in Colorado. The Empire expected this to cripple resistance in the region. Instead, 7 backup command centers activated, and operations continued without pause. "They're not fighting to win," realized Zev Drath. "They're fighting to exhaust us." The Imperial grand strategy relied on quick subjugation followed by resource extraction. Their ships carried limited supplies, expecting to resupply from conquered Earth. As the conflict stretched from days into weeks, Imperial resources began to strain. When Imperial forces attempted to secure Earth's largest freshwater lakes, they encountered Lisa Bennett's linguistic trap. False communications lured them into a Canadian wilderness, where Earth forces led by Colonel Martinez waited. The resulting battle ended with the capture of an Imperial officer and valuable technology. News of Earth's resistance spread throughout the Empire. Other subjugated worlds whispered about the planet that said no and survived. After 30 days of fighting, the Imperial fleet remained in Earth orbit, but their aura of invincibility was shattered. For the first time in centuries, the Empire faced a question with no easy answer. What happens when overwhelming force meets immovable determination? The arrival of the Imperial Grand Fleet changed everything. 100 massive warships appeared in Earth's orbit, dwarfing the initial invasion force. At their center hovered the Dominion, a planet-killer vessel capable of rendering worlds uninhabitable. "This is their full response," General Daniel Ross said grimly as he studied the orbital feeds. The veteran Marine had taken command of Earth's scattered defense forces after the destruction of 3 major command centers. He operated from a constantly moving underground facility, never staying in one location for more than 6 hours. The Empire wasted no time. Precision strikes hit major cities worldwide. New York, Tokyo, London, Moscow, all suffered devastating attacks from orbit. Imperial landing craft followed, deploying ground forces to secure the ruins. "Casualties?" Daniel asked, his voice tight. "Initial estimates in the millions," reported his aide. But Dr. Michelle Anderson reports evacuation protocols were partially successful. Michelle's emergency medical response teams had worked miracles. When Imperial ships targeted hospitals, patients had already been moved to underground facilities and camouflaged field hospitals. For every visible medical center destroyed, 3 hidden ones continued operating. The Empire's strategy was clear: break Earth's will through overwhelming force. What they didn't understand was that Earth's decentralized command structure meant there was no single point of failure. When Imperial forces occupied Washington, D.C., they found an empty city. Government functions had already been distributed across 50 locations. When they seized control of military bases, they discovered empty shells, the equipment and personnel long gone. Lieutenant Ryan Jackson made the crucial discovery during the 3rd week of the Grand Assault. Analyzing data from captured Imperial communication devices, he identified a pattern in their fleet movements. Their ships maintained formation even during combat, he explained to General Ross. "It's like they're physically tethered to each other, moving in perfect coordination." "Is that a weakness?" Ross asked. Ryan nodded. "Their formations optimize their shield coverage. But if we could disrupt that formation..." That insight led to Operation Hornet's Nest. Earth forces stopped trying to destroy Imperial ships and instead focused on pushing them out of formation. Suicide drones, electromagnetic pulses, even space debris carefully maneuvered into Imperial flight paths, all designed not to destroy but to displace. For every ship pushed out of formation, 3 others had to adjust their positions, creating a cascade of disruption across the Imperial fleet. Imperial Admiral Kex Vor raged at his subordinates. "Restore formation immediately. Their primitive attacks should not affect our coordinated defense." But Earth kept applying pressure at different points, never allowing the Imperial fleet to stabilize. While the Empire struggled to maintain their textbook formations, Earth forces struck at supply lines and support vessels. The war's turning point came unexpectedly. An Imperial scout ship crash-landed in the Brazilian rainforest after sustaining damage. Earth forces arriving at the site found the ship's commander, Krelvon, had survived. Unlike other captured Imperials, Krelvon willingly shared information. "The Empire isn't what it once was," he told his captors. "We maintain the illusion of invincibility, but our resources are stretched across too many fronts. Your resistance was supposed to be impossible." With Krelvon's help, Earth gained crucial insights into Imperial ship vulnerabilities. The defector revealed that the Grand Fleet's coordination relied on 6 command ships. Disrupt those, and the entire fleet would lose cohesion. General Ross assembled a desperate plan. 6 strike teams would simultaneously target the command ships, not to destroy them, but to disable their coordination systems. "We'll need volunteers," he told his officers. "One-way missions." Every officer in the room stepped forward. As Earth prepared its most daring operation yet, Dr. Michelle Anderson reported another troubling development. Medical supplies are critically low. If we don't break this siege soon, civilian casualties will rise exponentially. General Ross looked at the map showing Imperial positions around the globe. Despite their overwhelming force, the Empire controlled less than 20% of Earth's territory. "Send word to all commands," he ordered. "Operation Disruption begins at dawn." The Empire never expected an attack on their command ships. Their defensive formations protected against frontal assaults, not the infiltration tactics Earth had perfected. As dawn broke over North America, Operation Disruption began with a series of diversionary attacks worldwide. Imperial forces responded predictably, shifting resources to counter these apparent threats. This created the openings Earth needed. 6 teams led by Earth's best pilots slipped through the gaps in Imperial defenses. They flew modified atmospheric craft, too small and primitive to register on Imperial scanners calibrated for advanced technology. Captain Frank Lewis led Alpha Team toward the primary command ship. A former commercial pilot, Frank had lost his family in the London bombardment. His team carried a device developed by Susan Powell, a signal disruptor that could temporarily sever communications between ships. "Remember, we don't need to destroy them," Frank reminded his team. "Just break their network for 8 minutes." Imperial ships fired energy weapons at Earth's larger vessels, while the small infiltrators passed unnoticed beneath them. When finally detected, they were already too close for effective targeting. Frank's craft took heavy damage approaching the command ship. Systems failed, life support flickered. He ordered his team to continue while he created a diversion. "This one's for London," he whispered, directing his failing craft directly at the command ship's sensor array. The impact didn't breach the Imperial vessel's hull, but it created enough confusion for his team to plant the disruptor. Across the battlefield, 5 other teams executed similar missions. 4 succeeded, 1 failed, but 4 was enough. For the first time in centuries, Imperial ships lost their perfect coordination. Vessels collided, friendly fire incidents multiplied, and their devastating weapons couldn't be brought to bear effectively. Earth forces seized the moment, targeting the now vulnerable support ships and fuel tankers. The Imperial fleet, designed for overwhelming force, had no protocols for fighting while disorganized. On the ground, the Empire faced a different kind of defeat. Their supply lines stretched thin across hostile territory. Imperial troops found themselves surrounded by resistance fighters using guerrilla tactics they had no training to counter. Ambassador Exor Thal, watching from the Imperial flagship, finally understood. "They never tried to win by our rules," he told Admiral Kexfor. "They made us play by theirs." While the military battle raged, Patricia Howard led a different kind of attack. A diplomat before the invasion, she had used Krelvan's knowledge to establish communication with other worlds under Imperial control. "Earth stands against the Empire," her message began, transmitted through captured Imperial channels. "We fight not just for ourselves, but for all who desire freedom. Join us." The response was slow at first, a few isolated rebellions on distant worlds. Then more. Planets that had been quietly chafing under Imperial rule for centuries saw Earth's resistance as a sign that the Empire was not invincible. Admiral Kexvor received the reports with growing alarm. "We face rebellion in 6 sectors. Our forces are needed to maintain control elsewhere." The Empire had built its power through fear and the appearance of invincibility. Earth had shattered that illusion. After 60 days of continuous combat, the Imperial leadership faced a difficult truth. Conquering Earth would require resources they could no longer spare. During an emergency council meeting aboard the Dominion, Imperial leaders calculated costs. Subjugating Earth completely would require 3 times the current forces and years of occupation. Meanwhile, rebellions were spreading throughout Imperial territory. "The cost exceeds the benefit," concluded the Imperial overseer. "Earth has no resources we cannot obtain elsewhere at lower cost." Ambassador Exorthal disagreed. "If we withdraw, others will follow Earth's example. The Empire must never show weakness. The Empire must never waste resources, countered Admiral Kexfor. We cannot fight on all fronts simultaneously. The debate ended with a shocking proposal. For the first time in Imperial history, they would offer negotiation instead of demanding surrender. When the message reached Earth's leaders, General Ross allowed himself the first smile in months. They blinked first, he said. The Imperial delegation arrived not with demands but with proposals. Their massive ships remained in orbit, but as a show of good faith, they withdrew to positions beyond Earth's moon. Ambassador Xorthal, once dismissive of Earth's primitive civilization, now addressed the UN Security Council with careful respect. The Galactic Empire recognizes Earth's unique status, he began, his translator struggling with concepts the Imperial language rarely expressed. We propose a mutual agreement of non-interference. Ambassador Carol Miller represented Earth at these historic talks. A former judge with a reputation for fairness, she had been chosen for her ability to negotiate without compromising Earth's hard-won independence. Non-interference is a start, Carol replied. But Earth requires recognition as a sovereign world with full rights to develop without Imperial oversight. The negotiations lasted weeks. Imperial representatives struggled with the concept of dealing with equals rather than subjects. Earth's team insisted on clear language that prevented future Imperial claims. While diplomats talked, Earth continued preparing for possible renewed conflict. Susan Powell's team integrated captured Imperial technology with Earth systems. Military forces maintained combat readiness. No one fully trusted the Empire's sudden change of heart. The breakthrough came when Carol proposed a radical idea. Earth could serve as a mediator between the Empire and other worlds seeking independence. Xorthal's skin rippled with colors indicating surprise. Why would the Empire allow rebellion? Not rebellion, Carol clarified. Transition. The Empire spends vast resources maintaining control of unwilling worlds. What if those resources were redirected to mutually beneficial trade? The concept was revolutionary to Imperial thinking. Their entire civilization was built on control and hierarchy. Yet their recent calculations showed the cost of maintaining that control was becoming unsustainable. After 90 days of negotiations, the Treaty of Earth was signed. Its terms were unprecedented in Imperial history. Earth would remain fully independent. The Empire would withdraw all military forces from the Sol system. A neutral zone would be established around Earth's solar system. Trade between Earth and Imperial worlds would be permitted but not required. Earth would help establish a galactic association of free worlds as an alternative to Imperial rule. The day the treaty was ratified, celebrations erupted worldwide. Humanity had faced extinction and emerged not just surviving, but reshaping galactic politics. General Ross watched the Imperial ships depart from his command center. Will they honor it? He asked Carol. They will because it benefits them, she replied. Their empire was already stretched too thin. We just gave them a way to save face while reducing their burdens. The formation of the Galactic Association proceeded rapidly. Other worlds, inspired by Earth's resistance, petitioned to join. Some left the Empire peacefully, using Earth's treaty as a template. Others required more complex negotiations. Earth took its unique position seriously. Having nearly lost everything, humanity understood the value of independence and the dangers of complacency. The planet maintained its defenses while building bridges with other civilizations. 1 year after the Imperial withdrawal, Carol Miller stood before the first assembly of the Galactic Association on neutral territory. Representatives from 27 formerly Imperial worlds and 15 independent civilizations gathered to establish new principles of interstellar relations. We come together not as rulers and subjects, but as equals, Carol began. Earth does not seek to replace the Empire with our own dominion. We seek partnership based on mutual respect. The Empire sent observers to this gathering. Their reports back to Imperial leadership noted with concern how quickly the association was growing. But they also noted opportunities. Trade was flourishing between imperial worlds and association members, often more profitably than under direct imperial control. As the association grew, a new understanding emerged across the galaxy. Power came in many forms. Military might was just one kind, and not always the most effective. When a newly contacted civilization received the traditional imperial demand for integration 5 years later, they responded with words that had become famous throughout the stars. "We respectfully decline. Earth has shown there is another way." The Empire, learning from experience, sent diplomats instead of warships. The galaxy would never be the same.